Yes, and a very good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and a very big welcome here at another amazing session here at the Cornerstone Facebook Live, right? We are back again, and we are so happy to connect with all of you and be able to share with you again the most extraordinary guests and extraordinary people here in Malaysia. And tonight we have a really special guest that I wanted to get on board already for a very long time. A good friend of mine, but probably also one of the smartest people I know here in Malaysia. He knows everything about property, property law, property tax. Every time I sit down with him, I learn always like 1,700 things at the same time. This guy is really a person that you want to meet, you want to know everything from him if it comes to property, because he knows exactly how to warn you for all the little small details that you have to know before you start investing in a property. Either it's law related, either it's tax related, but definitely somebody that you want to have on your side when it comes to property investments, owning a property, etc. So who are we talking about? Now, before I reveal that, right, do me a huge favor, right? Because probably your friends or your family members do not want to miss this session, right? So do me a huge favor, share this link with one of your family members, with one of your friends, with everybody, with your neighbors. Share it into the neighborhood chat. You say, hey, we're going to have an amazing property lawyer. And you know what I'm going to do in return? I'm going to give you a chance to ask a question. Yes, it's an open forum tonight. You can ask a question in the comment box. I just checked with our guest. He says, it's okay. I'm willing to answer some questions. I will not charge for it. I will not send any invoices. I will be able to do this for the next 50 minutes or so. I can do this for free. So grab your chance, sit down, send this to your friends and say, hey, we can talk to a property lawyer for free for the next 50 minutes, right? So you can just come in, put it into the comment box. I will be giving you the priority over myself, because I got really a big list of questions. When I knew that this gentleman was coming on board, I knew I was going to have 100 questions for him, right? Probably I can only ask a few, but I will try to get as many questions as possible. So again, do me a huge favor, share this with your friends, your family members, everybody around you. We want to get as many people on board as possible, but let's just go straight to our guest of the evening. Now I have a little intro here, so I'm just going to take quickly my notes because I cannot remember everything, right? I know who he is, but just to give him a proper introduction, to get him on board, let me just give you a little bit of a background of our following guest. The following guest heads the property and conveyancing practice group at Donovan Ho. He is experienced in transactions involving industrial and commercial property. He is adept at conducting due diligence on high-value properties and is comfortable advising on corporate structuring. He also advises on purchases of property by foreigners or as a form of foreign investments. Shawn's team predominantly handles transactions for the secondary residential and commercial property market. Shawn also specializes in property-related tax planning involving RPGT, stamp duties, and incoming tax advisory. He has completed all the required professional papers for the property valuer and real estate license that was set by the Royal Institution of Surveyors in Malaysia. Shawn has been an advocate and solicitor of the High Court of Malaysia since 2006. So ladies and gentlemen, please put in a lot of likes, put in a lot of loves. I want to see a lot of comments for my next wonderful guest. Put your hands together for Mr. Shawn Ho. Good evening,
Hi,
Shawn.
good evening, Taco. Nice to see you. Thank you for the introduction. I feel like I'm in a boxing match right now, ready to wrestle.
Ready to wrestle in the talking match, right? Well, you are a lawyer, so you are a great debater, I guess, right? So I probably will not win that from you, I guess, right?
You can always try.
I can always try. Yeah. I will know how that will end, right? Shawn, first of all, thank you so much for spending some time. I know that you're a super busy man. You work 24 hours a day, and at the end of the day, you taking 1 hour just to sit with us. I really appreciate it. Thank you so much.
My pleasure. Thanks. If only I was that hardworking, but I would like people to think so.
Okay, that's good. That's good. Let's just make sure that everybody thinks that way, right? Hey, Shawn, again, an honor for you to be with us here tonight, right? You know, can you imagine globally, we are almost 1 year into this pandemic already, right?
Yes.
Just on a personal note, right? How have you experienced it so far?
Wow, yeah, time really flies. And, it's been a year. And, when this COVID pandemic hit, it took everyone by surprise. But I would say, given the year that has passed, I still have a lot to be thankful for. And the introvert in me actually is quite enjoying the peace and quiet that comes with this. Notwithstanding the challenges that presents itself to everyone, I quite enjoy that very different vibe going on, and everyone's going digital. Of course, I miss the face-to-face interaction a fair bit, but going digital has been quite an experience for me as well, work-wise and also off-work. So just to share a little bit on the not so serious part of the conversation, when during my time at home now, going digital means more online shopping for me. So unfortunately, that has led to various very strange hobbies that I would have never taken up, like growing vegetables using hydroponics. Yeah, and learning a couple of new tunes on the piano. So it's been good. It's been good.
Super nice. Okay, that's okay. Growing vegetables. Okay, I think we will have to invite you as a next guest if we get to the category of vegetable growing at home section next time.
Well, but just within a year, I learned that sweet basil and spinach grows fantastically well. I've tried easily 10 types of vegetables, and those two are the top.
Really? So cool. Okay. Well, if we have some time left, we're going to talk more about vegetables, but we will have to go through the property law first, if you don't mind, since our people are here, are wondering more about that part, right? Before we go there, right, just a little bit about your firm, right? A beautiful law firm called Donovan Ho, right? Can you give us maybe a little bit of a background? How did you get started? How many years have you now been running this beautiful company?
Well, okay, so basically this is my 15 years of legal practice. And, this firm was founded in 2014, okay? And it was founded by myself and my partner, Donovan, all right? And we were colleagues in the same law firm where we started practice, many years ago. And, we left the law firm, but decided to, we continued meeting each other, having drinks. And, I think it's one of those nights where we had a bit too much to drink. And we both decided, hey, maybe we should do something together. And being the creative people we are, we started a law firm. All right. So we started really, from very humble beginnings, just two of us, literally in this very office. And in those days, I've always been doing more corporate work, and I had my training in tax law as well, tax advisory. So naturally, when we started, this is the type of work that I took on, corporate and tax work. Over the years, however, we've got many supportive clients, individuals, business owners alike that, invariably asked us, hey, can your firm handle property work, right? And a lot of these requests have initially been rejected, and I couldn't take it on because of my commitments. However, personally, I've always enjoyed property and all things related to property. So, I decided one day, hey, this is something I'm interested in. I should really just get my hands into it. And I suppose that we didn't look back since. So what I would say is that it was interesting in that I approached this property transactions, with my lenses of deal making and tax structuring. All right. Instead of just seeing it as a conveyancing transaction, I really enjoyed the negotiation, between private parties on their specific terms, their specific needs, and throwing in a little bit of tax planning that gave me the excitement of, saving a client some money legitimately, saving some RPGT, stamp duty, and things like that. So that gave me that satisfaction, and it just made things more interesting. and just negotiating with other property lawyers to achieve a win-win deal and to have a smooth transaction. I mean, over time, that really, I got really into it, and that's where we are right now.
Wonderful, wonderful. So yeah, you mentioned that's where we are right now. Yeah, like you said, right? 15 years in the practice, right? I know from some other lawyer friends, being a lawyer is not like the 4-hour work week, right? It's hard work, long hours, a lot of reading, following up on a lot of stuff. After 14 years, so 15 years, you said, right? What are you currently busy with? In times of COVID, what is a company like Donovan and Ho? What are you mainly busy with right now?
Right. So we are still focusing on our core areas of expertise, which is corporate work, helping companies with their fundraising, making sure that they grow and avoid legal risks and seizing opportunities along the way in their growth journey. We help clients with for example, rolling out employee share option schemes. Especially in these times of COVID, many businesses have been hit. However, those that have loyal employees who ride through the storm with them, the owners really feel that they want to keep and reward them, and this is where we also come in. My partner does a lot of the employment advisory, and since day one, we as a firm have been writing a lot of articles on our website to share about employment law, labor law related topics, and this year, in fact, actually, since 2020, I did make a decision to grow our property practice area. And, this started off by me hiring a senior associate to help me with all these property transactions. And since then, we have also been actively writing articles about property-related matters. We hope to share our knowledge, our experience, and hopefully some more interesting stories that we come across in legal practice. So wonderful. I would say for 2021, we are busy with really focusing on growing our clientele for property-related matters. I hope to work with good professionals like yourselves, good agents, good property valuers, and good bankers that can really go over and beyond the normal transactional matters, share the knowledge, share the experience, and really raise the bar for everyone who is interested in buying or selling property, right? Yeah. So yeah, this is something that I really would love to do. And also as part of our DNA, we like sharing knowledge, whether it's by way of articles or giving talks. And we've worked together on that on several talks before. So I would love to continue that this year as well.
Wonderful, wonderful. Yeah, and what I've heard so far was all great value, right? I mean, the knowledge that especially you share a lot, specifically related to property, is always mind-blowing. Let's go a little bit deeper into that, right? If you're okay with that, right? Because property law, some people find it very straightforward. Other people say it's very confusing. There's a lot of little things that you need to think about before you invest or even buy property for your own stay, right? What do you believe, to start off with, what do you believe is let's say the biggest misperception that people have about the legal side of property?
Wow, this is a loaded question, Taco, but I think it's also an opportunity. And I would say without hesitation that the biggest misperception or misconception that people have about property law and conveyancing and property transactions is that all property transactions are so standard and so easy. I just turn up, sign all the dozens of pages of paper in the agreement, and a few months later I get my keys, right? So I would say, unfortunately, that is just so far from the truth. Maybe I can elaborate a little bit. That may be the case if, for example, you are purchasing a property directly from a developer. Okay, and the reason for that is really very simple, that our current laws has set a standardized sale and purchase agreement, all right, that cannot be varied. And this is the agreement that buyers sign when they purchase a property directly from a developer. So as you can imagine, there is no space to negotiate. There's no space to tailor your transaction. And in that sense, yes, I would say it's quite standard and easy. That said, there are many various challenges and issues that could even crop up when you buy property from a developer. All right. So I will just share with you on the sub-sale side of things. So in the secondary market, right, when you buy or sell a property from a private owner who is not a developer, now this is where things get really interesting, and the reason for this is also because due to our property system, we are governed under the torrent system, right, which is actually based on an Australian system. We've got property with title, without title. We've got all sorts of property, right? Industrial property, agriculture, residential. And then there are different states that have their own different laws when it comes to property, all right? And then there are laws that apply to foreigners. There are different rules that apply to locals. And even among locals, there are different rules that apply to Bumiputra and non-Bumiputra. So that alone, you can see the number of permutations that you could encounter in a transaction. And not just that, imagine a simple sale and purchase agreement of a residential property, right? How many parties are there in total, all right? Let me list it down. There's the buyer, that's the seller, straightforward, right? If you want to count the bank of the seller's bank, if the loan is still there, yes. The buyer's bank, yes. Maybe if you can count the property agency, that's a party too, right? There are the two lawyers, we're up to 7 now. There's the valuer that you need to rely on for the report. There's potentially maybe a tenant that's occupying the unit. Okay, then there's the stamp office, the land office, the government agencies. There we go, 10 fingers already. And all these parts form part of the transaction, right? And from that you can already see. And not just that, I mean, this COVID situation has then further added on another layer of challenge, right? Where people find it so difficult to meet up for signing. The land offices are closed, open, close again. There are new requirements for making of appointments just to present the instrument of transfer. All these things have really made transacting properties very challenging. And the take-home point is really this, that no property transaction is really that simple. It might be, unfortunately, a case of not really knowing what you don't know, right? And hopefully today I can give everyone a glimpse, just the tip of the iceberg would do, of what is involved in a property transaction. I really hope to share the opportunities as much as the risks that are in store for property players.
That's wonderful, and definitely, I'm so much looking forward to dive deep into that, right? But already mind-blowing the fact that people think it's just between a buyer and a seller, right? But there's 8 other parties that you just mentioned that are actually part of that transaction, that all have their own terms and conditions. They bring different, and they have different benefits, and they take different parts in that transaction, right? So the chances of something going wrong, out of the 10, only one has to have some doubt or something is wrong, and the whole transaction is at risk, I guess, right?
Yeah, it can be as simple as the property having a tenant that does not want to move out or is slow to move out. Then, right? The seller will be stuck, and he could face a potential breach in the sale and purchase agreement. It could be something as simple as that. And I would say perhaps just coming down to all this, that's where knowledge is important. And for most people, buying and selling a property probably happens, let's say at least once in their life, right? Nowadays, of course, people are a bit more affluent. They might purchase a second or third property. Hopefully, they don't learn the hard way from mistakes, right? And if it's just going to be once in a lifetime, make it a good one, make it a very successful transaction, and always remember time is money as well. So you really don't want to be wasting time dragging on the transaction when you could have done something as simple as just calling up your favorite lawyer and asking him way in advance, hey, I want to buy or sell a property. What should I be looking out for? So I would just flag up some of these opportunities along the way.
Wonderful, wonderful. So later on, we will go a little bit deeper on that part, but just, we have this title, right? Smart property buyer, gems you can unearth from a title search, right? When we prepared for this session, right, you and I discussed a little bit on, okay, what should we talk about? There's so much to cover if it comes to property law. We have limited time. And then suddenly you came a little bit with this suggestion, right? What I found was really interesting, right? They're very specific. And I thought, like, if a lawyer comes with this suggestion, then there must be something that is very important to announce with that. So could you elaborate a little bit? So yeah, basically, what are the gems you can unearth from a title search?
Yeah, well, there are so many, from a very, very humble and simple land search. It's incredible how much, a trained person can unearth from it. All right. And I would just start off by saying that, when a buyer of a property, wishes to put money down, right? Imagine the steps he would take to inspect the property physically, right? The higher value the property that would get, the more likely he will go by and look at every little scratch and nook and cranny, right? And so much effort and time is put into inspecting the actual physical property. But very ironically, the information or the title or the property details and information is equally important, isn't it? Rather than the physical property itself. And this is where the title search comes in, right? So under our legal system, basically there are titles, legal titles for most of the properties, that are in Malaysia. Okay, not all, but most. All right. And when I say title, really it includes strata title, where you have, residential units in a condo, where you buy a unit in an office building, all right? Even gated and guarded communities have strata titles, right? So even better, you can actually do a land search on your own. So anybody can do a land search, all right? And it's not just limited to lawyers or property agents or people in the profession. And, just in the past 1 or 2 years, 3 years, in fact, very interesting developments from the legal tech side, where there are now apps that allows anyone to basically commission a land search very quickly and just for about 20 ringgit. All right, this information is now available to anyone who wishes to do a search on their property. So it has gotten much more accessible and still very affordable to do a title search. All right. So that's the first thing that I do want to share. A title search is not exclusive to just the professionals. Anyone can do it. And of course, if you really have the intention to do so, by all means, just request for Taco to do a land search. I'm sure he knows who to ask for and can do one himself, and just ask somebody to do it, right? So now, diving into the meat of this, what gems can we uncover? Wow, there's so much to unpack here, and let me just take my time with this.
Sure.
Just from the high level, the way I see these gems, I classify into maybe 4 different baskets, all right? The first very obvious basket of gems are really the property details. What I mean by that, right at the very top of the land search, you will get information about, for example, whether it's a freehold or leasehold property, right? Very important information, isn't it? If it's a leasehold property, it will tell you exactly how many years is remaining on the leasehold tenure, when it expires, right? It will tell you, the accessory parcels that are there, and that can indicate how many car parks that come with the property. You don't just have to rely on the seller's representation that, hey, I've got 10 car parks, somewhere in the basement. I can't tell you where it's down there. And then you place the deposit down and realize, hey, there's only one, right? I mean, a simple search could reveal that to you. So property information also then includes the plan, all right? And this is especially important if you're buying landed property, if you're buying agricultural property, if you're buying industrial property, and you can then determine and see for yourself what the shape of the land is, especially if you want to build something on it, right? The shape of the land really has to be the starting point. And imagine buying a piece of property where you just look at it with your eyes. How do you see the boundary? What if there are no buildings, nicely demarcating the boundary for you? All right. So something as basic as that, you can tell, of course, the area, area of the land. So basic property details, everyone knows that. All right. The second basket I see are really regarding the consent requirements. Okay. And I think this is quite simple. Certain properties require certain types of consent, state authority consent. Okay. And simply put, the consent requirements, how does this impact a potential buyer or even a seller? Well, very simple. It will just tell you how much time to prepare for the transaction. All right. So if you require a consent to transact the property, to sell the property, or to place a charge on the property, very quickly you can already add on 2, 3, 4 months more to your transaction, and that will then already save you a lot of grief, from moving out or terminating your tenancy early, and you have nowhere to stay, expecting that it is just a 3+1 month type of transaction and it's standard. All right, something so simple like that, you can avoid a lot of grief, you can save a lot of time, or you can manage your expectations, right? The third basket, I would say, are permitted uses. This is probably more to do with industrial or commercial type properties. I give you a very, very classic example. When you drive along Jalan Marov, right, you pass all these really nice galleries, selling fancy cars, right? Actually, some of you might know that these showrooms are actually gazetted for residential use only. However, over time, Malaysia boleh, right? These really beautiful commercial buildings have been erected. I mean, these are anomalies, but what I'm trying to say here is this. You might encounter, representations from interested parties who want to sell you a property to say that, okay, this piece of land, it's gazetted as agricultural, but you can build factories here. Then you think to yourself, hey, I'm going to spend 4-5 million and above to buy this piece of land. How do I take his word for it just like that, right? So the first thing you can do is then do a property search, a title search, verify what is actually stated on the title. And then that's a starting point, right? You can then verify, just do a very basic check to start from there, all right? The very final fourth basket of gems, I would say, it's a basket that, it's a gem in the sense that it can save you a lot of grief, all right? So that in itself is a gem. And this deals with identifying the claims by third parties who are interested on the property, what we call encumbrances. So our legal system actually allows for people or any parties who have a claim, all right, in a certain property to lodge what we call a caveat, all right? And a caveat literally is just a notification to the entire world out there that this particular person who lodged the caveat has a claim on the property. It doesn't mean that it has been a verified or proven claim, but just a simple search would reveal that, if there are a couple of parties who have bothered to lodge a caveat, all right, this should set off alarm bells. And as a buyer, you should then think twice and really go a step further, call your lawyer, call your agent, go deeper and challenge the seller as to why there are caveats to it before even placing your earnest deposit down, right? So yeah. I would say for the property agents that are listening out there, this can be a very, very useful tool for you too. Just knowing these 4 baskets of gems can really save you a lot of wasted time, right? In just relying on what the owner represents to you. And all the effort that you have to put in to market the property, to find a buyer, a potential buyer, the whole works, you guys put in a lot of effort on that. All right. And just a simple title search, I would say really it should be the first thing that is done. All right.
Yeah.
So just to sum it up, a trained person, it doesn't have to be a legally qualified person, just a person who is bothered to do the search and is able to interpret very briefly what the title holds, you can identify opportunities, you can identify red flags, all right? And eventually you can identify, time savings, and time is money as well, right?
Correct.
So maybe I can just take this time to share a real life situation that we've encountered, to illustrate this, right? How a simple and humble title search can save you time and money, right? So we've come across this matter before where we were approached by a person, who has mentioned that he has signed an offer letter to purchase property, and as usual, he is looking for a lawyer to give him a fee quote for his property purchase. So he gave us the offer letter, read through the terms and conditions, gave him some advice on things to modify, and he's mentioned that he's already placed the earnest deposit, and time to start drafting the sale and purchase agreement. All right. Yes. So the very first thing that we then do while drafting the sale and purchase agreement is to do a land search. All right. And that takes a couple of days. In those days, it took a week or two. All right. So we concurrently worked on the agreement, and we got pretty far with the agreement. And then 2 weeks later, the title search came back. And I had to double check it, triple check it, because I couldn't believe what I saw. The name in the title stating the owner, the registered owner, it's completely different from the person that signed the offer letter and told us that he was the proper seller. Yeah. Okay. And I checked the surname, didn't tally, not even a relative, right? So it was interesting, because then, of course, the alarm bells started ringing. And, I quickly picked up the phone, called the other lawyer, and they also did their search and realized this happened as well. And lo and behold, we did a lot of digging, and the seller's lawyer questioned the client. Right. Yeah. And it turned out that, unfortunately for our buyer client, they had already placed the earnest deposit. And of course, we fought very hard to get the earnest deposit back, which we did. And not just that, because of the dishonesty that happened, the buyer had decided to sue the seller for this misrepresentation. And we claimed against the seller for the damages, which is the equivalent of the earnest deposit. All right. Yeah. So, I mean, in that sense, it ended well for our buyer client, but I would say he lost a lot of his time, and actually he wasn't interested in the earnest deposit. He was more keen on owning the property, right? As you can imagine. So it was in a sense a hollow victory, but something as simple as that could really be nipped in the bud, even before the offer letter was signed. And in that situation, actually, my heart actually went out to the agent who transacted the deal, who closed the deal. That lady was actually very, very, very good. She was a very hands-on, very responsive agent. Unfortunately, she got caught in the middle of the crossfire. When lawyers come in and things go wrong, we pull no punches, and unfortunately, the agent and the agency got caught in the middle as well. She tried her best to manage the situation, but in a situation like this, we really had to hold people accountable, and we eventually got her off the hook in a sense. The buyer was very upset, but eventually she lost the commission, unfortunately, despite her months of hard work. So I would say take home point for agents out there as well. Please incorporate this as a very simple but effective tool, so as not to end up in the trouble and losing your commissions, right? I guess we do have a little bit of time for one more story, or should we move on?
I mean, I'm all about stories, Shawn. So please go ahead.
Okay, this will probably be my longest answer for this question. Okay, after
No,
that,
no, I
just
like it. I like it.
all right. Another scenario, just to showcase the opportunities. All right, I'm not here just to scare all of you. I would also like to shine a spotlight on potential opportunities for buyers in doing a land search, right, or consulting a good agent really early on, good value, a good lawyer early on, right? So this particular transaction we had was to do with an industrial property, all right, which was a leasehold tenure, and the seller was is a client of ours. You know, we did some corporate work for them, and they indicated to us very early on that they had an intention to sell the industrial property that they were operating in, right? So they came to us very early, way before even the offer letter was prepared, way before the property was marketed. Okay, so first thing that we did was, of course, to commission a land search. The land search very quickly revealed that the leasehold tenure, the number of years left, was 20 plus, 21 years, right? And for that, we immediately told the seller, the client, look, I know this might not be your problem, but generally speaking, banks in Malaysia are very reluctant to extend loans to buyers, okay, when they realize that the property has only 21 years left. Okay, so this might not affect you, Mr. Seller, but it will affect any buyer who wants to get a loan. All right, so what do we do? All right, another thing is this: for leasehold property in Malaysia, 21 years. I think most people will know that the maximum tenure you can extend a leasehold to is 99 years, right? So therein lies about 20 over years of tenure that has been exhausted. And if a party then pays a premium, he can extend the leasehold term afresh right up to 99 years. And with that, the property value goes up, all right? Because then a corporate buyer will look at it and say, hey, I can use this. Number one, I can borrow from the bank, all right? I will have no problem securing a loan. Number two, I can then use this property for the next 20, 30 years and then still be able to sell it easily. Right, so there was some potential opportunity there, and there was time for us to work with, for us to explore these options, because that's critical. The moment the offer letter has been signed and you come to us, these options are out of the question, right? You just want to go ahead, prepare the sale and purchase agreement. These opportunities are just not even there for you to consider. So because of the time that they came to us early on, we actually proposed these options, and we structured the deal such that the property agent was very clear to market this property to certain type of buyers. Okay, we actually also connected the seller to some of our favorite bankers, picked up the phone and asked them, if we do this, can you grant a loan based on these conditions? They say, yes, we can. Make sure we have these conditions on your offer. So we did quite a fair bit of homework and preparation, I must say, okay, for this client. But the benefit of that is that the agent was so focused, he got a couple of offers very quickly, and the buyer was actually very impressed that, you know, he was happy to hear that, oh, okay, the valuation is this much. These two local banks in Malaysia are willing to lend me the money if we fulfill this. So it was actually very smooth. And when the buyer's lawyer came on board, he just had to green light, you know, the various proposals. It checked out, double check on the land search, it checks out. And very quickly, we agreed on a sale and purchase agreement. All right. And in that deal, it was really a win-win, and really satisfied that the seller got to sell the property at, you know, a higher price than he expected. Okay. Of course, there were certain mechanisms in the transaction we had to juggle and negotiate. The buyer was able to you know, obtain a loan. And because the deal took a lot longer because of the extensions and all that, you know, we negotiated a rental for the buyer to occupy the factory pending the transaction. All right. And it was really a win-win-win all around. The agent got his commission, you know, we got our fees, no discount because of the hard work we put in, and you know, all parties were happy on that. Yeah.
Wonderful, Shawn. You're right. That is a long answer, but definitely a very relevant answer what you're giving there. Because yeah, it's so important. I mean, I have so many things that I just picked up from that. If I can just kind of put it all together
Sure. Yeah.
into a thing that came to my mind immediately was this very famous quote. I think it was from Abraham Lincoln that says, "If you give me 6 hours to chop down a tree, I would spend the first 5 hours sharpening the axe." Right?
Wow.
It's
Yeah.
it's all about the preparation, right? And I remember one of my old agency owners, when I just started my real estate business, he said to me very famously, he said, a transaction is not something that happens to you. A smooth transaction happens because of you. He was always very clear, right? You have to prepare for a smooth transaction. Don't let it be taken over by other assumptions or things that could be happening, right? And when you talk about the title, right, like you said, right, you just get in such nasty and difficult situations if you just didn't do a quick proper check of, okay, title, how many years, is this the real owner, right? Is this the person that is eligible, that is allowed to sell this property because it's on his name, right? All of the bad noise could have been avoided if you just quickly, it's $20 and you just take and you just do a quick approach, just you double check it, and then okay, how to start strategizing for your eventual sales. So thanks so much for that, Shawn. That was such a great answer, and I think especially for all parties, like people like sellers, buyers, but especially property agents, what is, I think, the majority of the crowd here, right? So important to understand that you cannot just assume that everybody is just the seller, or they are the person that is allowed to sell, right? I heard more stories from that yeah, you need to double check, right? Is this the real person that is this the decision maker, right? Is this the person that can actually set the autograph, right? Brings me actually to put this all together, right? Just do another question very quickly, right? What do you think? Like, if you look from the investment side of real estate, right? People invest a lot in real estate, right? Because they think it's a safe investment. There's a good return. It's a good way to park your money into strong assets. If you look from the perspective of the clients that you have helped, and like any story you want to share, please do so, right? What do you think is the most common and similar mistake that people make when it comes to investing in a property?
Wow, yeah, that is such a great question, and I wish I had another hour just to share the stories I've come across. How do I sum it up? I mean, when you talk about investing, at the end of the day, it's really about your return, isn't it? The dollars and cents that you can squeeze out of this investment, right? Otherwise, you wouldn't call it an investment. It's for own stay, and you derive pleasure out of it. So it's really down to the dollars and cents. And the biggest mistake, I would say, is that, really people underestimate, either deliberately or out of ignorance, the number of costs, expenses, outgoings, either one-off or continual, unforeseen or otherwise, that's involved in a property investment. All right, there are so many actually, and it will be too late if you learn from experience. And I would say I'm sometimes guilty of it, right? Again, not knowing what I don't know. And in my multiple, not very successful attempts at investing in the stock market, for example, it's human nature. I just quite catch myself realizing that I only keep track of the profit or the wins, right? And the losses I just conveniently ignore, right? So for property investment, I find that's quite similar, and people tend to just take the high level. Oh, I bought it at this price. Oh, I sold it at this double the price 10 years later. But actually, when you really do the math, right, and you really are very detailed in accounting for all the costs, all the mistakes, and all the fees that you could have saved or not accounted for, you realize the return, it was a big waste of your time and money. All right, so I would say really we can't escape being detailed if you're talking about investment, unless you're
Yes.
really there to just be happy with the top line and that's about it. And by all means, I mean, people make money that way too, right? Who's to say? Yeah.
True. Very true. Thank you for sharing that. I think it's a very good point, right? Just a quick, we have a quick question from the audience, Shawn, that I just want to kind of swipe right into in between questions from ourselves, right? Amanda is asking, which portal or platform can they log into to do the land search themselves, right? Normally they engage a lawyer. I think that is kind of the traditional practice, right? You ask a lawyer to do it. So what portal or platform can they do the land search these days?
Oh, most happy to share this. There is this app. It's a mobile app. I'm not sure if they have a website that you can do this on, but it's called 𝐸asylaw, 𝐸asylaw. I'm not sure if you can see my phone here, but I can show you what it looks like. 𝐸asylaw. You see this app? Very, very nicely set out. You can commission a land search. It has even an inbuilt legal fee calculator, stamp duty calculator, mortgage loan calculator, all right, real property gains tax calculator. So you don't need a lawyer after this already. No, I'm kidding. I'll give you another good one. For buyers and sellers out there, I'm sure a lot of you already know, but I find this emerging, a website, and there are other websites like this which allow you to purchase historical transaction data, all right, of property. It's called BRICS, BRIKZ.
Yeah.
You just pay for a search report, and you can download one. Do your own comparison on prices, and it's actually very long overdue. All these kind of data shouldn't be kept, buried 10 feet under.
Yeah, it's very good. Thank you for that tip. 𝐸asylaw, you were saying. We will do a little. We will send out a little link later after this session so that people can have a look. Since that we're getting a question from a real estate negotiator. I know Amanda, she's a real estate negotiator with Cornerstone. Advising real estate agents a little bit here, Shawn, right? Because you deal with a lot of real estate agents, negotiators, right, all across Malaysia. When it comes to tax and property law, right? What would you advise? Like, an agent is not a lawyer, right? And they haven't studied the things that you have studied, right? But still, they have to advise their clients in ways that they need to make sure that they protect the interest of their clients, right? So how would you advise real estate agents to take even more care of their clients when it comes to specific property law and property tax?
Okay, that was Taco. I had some technical difficulties there, and I do apologize. Your voice came out very garbled.
Can you hear me again?
Oh, you sound like Darth Vader from my speaker. I don't know what's going on.
Okay, so let me just quickly, one second. Let me just quickly see what is going on in the.
I hear a lot of echo right now as well.
Okay. So let me change my audio very quickly. Can you hear me better now?
Yes, much better.
Yes. Okay. Sorry about that. I think my mic had a little situation here.
Okay.
No worries.
Could you repeat your question?
Sorry.
Could you repeat your question, please?
Sure.
The last question.
Let me make the question a little shorter, right? How would you advise real estate agents, right, to take more care of their clients when it comes to property law and property tax?
How would I advise agents to approach these topics on property law and tax, right?
Yeah. How can they take better care of their clients, right? They don't know what a lawyer knows, right? And they have to still advise clients. How can they make sure that they just protect their interest even better?
Yeah, well, I would say really it's there's no shortcut to this. It's the good old-fashioned learn and expand your knowledge. Take courses, sign up for classes, discuss with the lawyer friends. I mean, for every transaction you do, you meet lawyers, and I'm sure there are many exams, and I've taken some of those as well. I signed myself up for classes on valuation just for the heck of it, to learn more about it. It's really about just learning and acquiring knowledge on your own initiative. And instead of learning the hard way through legal battles, I don't think that's a good way to learn at all. And literally, yeah, I mean, that's something that you really just have to make that decision to want to benefit your client more, all right, from these angles, and you'll find ways to do it. All right, I think it's as simple as that. I hope this is not too simplistic an answer, but it's really just that. Yeah.
I think that is also really the way, right? But at the end, they are not lawyers, right? They want to try to take better care. But I think it's good, yeah, just to keep learning, keep improving themselves, right? Just another question, just I'm curious about, right, Shawn, what do you think of the current property landscape, right? Do you feel that for lawyers or for people like you were just mentioning about the app, right, where there's a lot of digitalization, right? A lot of disruption in all industries for the legal and also for the agents, right? Do you see any big challenges coming your way for your industry?
Yeah, certainly. I think everyone is experiencing to some degree, the effects of, first of all, the overhang in supply in residential property, in some areas, even office buildings. Due to the COVID as well, offices have been vacant, shopping malls have been sluggish, and that leads to then salary stagnation, job cuts. There is, of course, a segment of people who are on the lookout for bargains, which there are plenty right now. Okay,
yes.
And of course, it takes time for new supply to come into the market, but in the bigger scheme of things, our government has very wisely also introduced this, special exemption from real property gains tax for individuals who are Malaysian citizens to be able to dispose of their property, up to 3 residential properties, okay, by the end of this year, free from real property gains tax. So for those of you out there, who own property for a long time, and the property has appreciated tremendously, perhaps now is a good time to consider whether you can dispose the property provided the price is right, and maybe reinvest or buy an upgraded property. I would say, I haven't been around that long. You look at my face, I'm still so young, right? 15 years I've never seen the government ever give such an exemption before. I think this is extraordinary. So I think that they're doing the right thing to push out supply in the market so that buyers can really transact easily and be realistic in their expectations. So one other thing is that the property landscape, in terms of challenges, it is going to be challenging. Unfortunately, there are a lot of articles these days as well on property auctions. That is, of course, a sign of things to come, where the bank moratorium will end. There will be a certain lag time before defaults happen. When defaults happen, there is then some more time before legal action is initiated, before the banks then foreclose, and then in order for the supply to come out into the auction market. So based on what I understand, and also talking to some expert agents who are very seasoned in auction market, you would expect the flood of properties that come out on auction sometime in second half of this year. All right. And with that said, like it or not, it will happen. And we are also preparing a webinar next month on Auction Property 101. And I think this is something that also a lot of people will want to get some knowledge on, and perhaps even take a plunge and see if they can purchase a property through an auction. Okay, so just look out for that talk. We'll have some interesting topics of discussion as well. Yeah.
I will definitely get the details from you later for that auction talk. I think that's very interesting, right? And we will share it with our group here, with our network, right? So for them also to join in, that would be great. Since you're talking about auctions, right? And those auctions come to the market, people always like to take on new opportunities, new things, right? Like you said, there's more talk about auctions, but maybe people also need a word of advice, or maybe even a warning, when it comes to auctions, right? What advice or warning would you want to give people considering buying a property through an auction?
Yeah, okay, well, I would say the takeaway point is really this: fortune does not favor the brave, it favors the diligent. All right. So, there are a lot of myths out there that auction property is very dangerous, and, you do not touch it unless you're so desperate for property and you get what you pay for and all that. I would say, again, at the end of the day, there are that many risks that could present itself. What steps are you then taking to be aware, to find out, is that risk real or is not real? What can you find out to mitigate that risk, to manage that risk? And once you've taken those steps, you'll find that there are plenty of opportunities there. And in a sense, if you can look at it this way, there are several steps you have to take. And the more steps you have to take, the less competition you might have, right? So if you look at it that way, then perhaps that hard work of preparation wouldn't be so hard after all.
Yeah, true, wonderful. That's great sharing, Shawn. Shawn, I have some good news and I have some bad news. The good news is that I'm quite sure that everybody finds this an amazing session. The bad news is we're coming close to an end of time. I still have like a gazillion questions for you, but I'm just going to pick two last ones, right? Just to kind of end the evening here, right? Since you have been 15 years practicing, your beautiful firm. You have seen a lot of changes over time, right? The new laws, maybe also new ways of working, right? What are some of the things that you feel need to be improved in the current process? Do you think that we can make things even easier for sellers and buyers if we would just improve one or two things at the moment?
Yeah, I find that's really a challenging question, only because I had to select from so many things that could be improved. Right? But if I really had to choose one or two, I would actually say that number one, I wish that there was really a very, very good and thorough standard offer letter that everyone can use and adopt and customize, even the customizations, the various permutations. I wish there was a reasonable, fair, and thorough offer letter, because that can just save buyers or sellers so much agony. It can save property agents so much frustration and being embroiled in legal battles. I think really that is the one thing which I wish could change. All right, perhaps we could work together and come up with a platinum standard offer letter, right?
Yes.
I think that will solve a lot of grief.
True.
Okay. Number two, I wish there was, also a practice. I mean, a practice doesn't come overnight, right? A practice that sellers and buyers and agents would just automatically, prepare. For example, do a land search, get the documents in order, do certain basic verifications before even an offer letter is signed. Because again, I feel that is really 80% of the battle won. Before the offer letter is signed and negotiating the offer letter. And if that is done, the other 20%, as long as it might be, it should be much smoother.
Yeah. That's two good points. Yeah, I must agree with you. Yeah, the offer letter, if we could just standardize that, it would save a lot of stuff and just a little bit more preparation. I would want to include that maybe people should have their pre-approved loans, right, before they go into the buying process, right, before they even thinking of buying. What would the bank potentially give them as a loan, right, before even start searching, right, to save a lot of people time before they get there, right?
Before signing the offer letter, please.
Yeah. Exactly.
Even before that, yeah.
Interesting. So, like I said, we don't have much time left, but just a quick one. Shawn, imagine tomorrow, no more COVID, right? All gone. We can just do anything what we want, right? what would be the first thing that you would be doing that you were limited to do in the last 12 months?
Wow, Taco, I'm glad you asked me that question. I don't think you like the answer. You know, the first thing I'll do is to book myself a plane ticket to camp out at one of your mansions facing the beach. You know, I know you spend a lot of time abroad and have several properties everywhere. I'll just invite myself to one of them and face the beach and chill out more. You know? Okay,
I'll join you for that one for sure. That is good. I will not disturb you too much. I'll be just laying on the beach or something like that. Okay, well, we have come to an end on this wonderful session. I have always this one final question that I ask all the guests, Shawn, at the end. It's just a little bit of an idea of what final message just Shawn Ho want to give to the people, right? So if I were to sponsor you a billboard, right, and you could write any message on that billboard, right? That billboard would be somewhere at the highway where there's a lot of traffic, a lot of people will be reading on that billboard, right? What message does Shawn Ho put on that billboard?
Well, I think it's a no-brainer for me. I would just put my face there. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding, of course. Not much value in that, right? Not much take-home value. Well, I would just put the website, you know, www.dnh.com.my. DNH being do not honk. All right, drive safely. That's the website for my law firm. Okay. On a more serious note, do check it out, dnh.com.my. We have a lot of good articles and we share a lot of knowledge there. So that's really my take-home point for everyone, and I'm most happy to you know, be invited on this session, Taco. Thanks so much. You're doing a phenomenal job in even hosting this series, and I've also benefited from watching a lot of them.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate that, Shawn. So again, everyone, dnh.com.my. That's for Donovan and Ho. dnh.com.my. So, and when is your auction session, your webinar? Which date is that?
Let's see. It's on the 19th of March. It's a Friday at 8 p.m.
Okay, so I will catch the details from you or from your office, and then we will share that also to our network. For now,
let's do that.
Okay, wonderful. Hey, Shawn, thank you so much. A great honor, and so happy that you could join us here tonight. We have a lot of happy faces here in our Cornerstone Live. You have shared so amazingly so much valuable knowledge with us. I wish I could ask you another 150 questions that I have on a piece of paper, but we don't have much more time, and it's time to go to bed soon. So thank you again, Shawn, for this wonderful time. I hope to do it again soon in the future.
Thank you, Taco. It's been my pleasure, and I would love to. As many times as you ask me to, let's do it.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you, Taco.
Thank you so much for joining us here with Mr. Shawn Ho. I will be seeing you again next week where we have another guest. Probably on the 3rd of March, we have Carlos Matias, who will be talking more about property technology. For tonight, this was Coach Taco together with Shawn Ho. Have a great evening. Stay safe. See you next time. Bye-bye.
Bye.